Alright, now I'm going to show you how to install the stock components on an AR-15 lower. The stock components compose of the receiver extension or buffer tube. There's a spring and a buffer that goes inside the tube. There's the stock body itself. The receiver extension is held in place with an end plate and a castle nut. And there's a few small parts as well. There's a detente spring and a detente, which is actually used to hold the rear takedown pin in place. And there's a buffer retainer and a buffer retainer spring, which is used to hold the spring and the buffer in place. Well, to start assembly, the first thing to do is just to insert and align your takedown pin with the hole in the rear of the receiver. You drop in the detente. Next, you're going to prepare your receiver extension. You start by screwing on the castle nut. It's done so that the notches for the wrench are towards the rear and these small little grooves for staking are towards the front. Just want to screw it all the way down. Next, you're going to install the end plate. The end plate's installed so that this little notch lines up in the groove on the bottom of the tube, and this indentation is facing outwards toward the rear of the receiver. So just slide that on. At this point, you can just start screwing it into the receiver. Now, screw it on until it approaches this hole right here. Before you reach that hole, you want to stop and you want to drop in the buffer retainer spring and then the buffer retainer. Now what you want to do is you're going to want to hold down the buffer retainer, compress the spring, and turn it until the end of the tube is holding that piece in place. You want to stop before it binds it. It needs to be able to move up and down freely. Once you get to that point, you can rotate about another quarter or half turn and insert the detente spring. You want to make sure that the groove and the detente are lined up on the takedown pin. Now you can compress the spring and rotate the end plate back until it's in place. Once you see that the end plate is lined up and the spring is straight, you can press the end plate into the receiver, get that little detente to go into the hole, and then you can hand tighten the castle nut. Now when you do all this, you want to make sure you don't turn the tube so much so that you relieve the pressure or this buffer retainer spring might fly out. It's always a good idea to wear eye protection when you're doing this part because they have been known to fly out and could cause you some damage. At this point, you want to tighten up the castle nut. And for this, I have a 3-prong stock wrench. They also come in a single prong. You can also get one as part of a standard armorer's, multi-purpose armorer's wrench. I'm just going to do this hand tight for now, but you would probably want to get this fairly tight. You can use a lower block in a vise. You can also stake it, which involves a punch and smashing some of the metal into the little groove in the back of the castle nut. Today I'm not going to do that. Once that's done, you insert the buffer into the spring. The spring slides into the receiver extension tube. Push it all the way in. It'll compress the buffer retainer and it'll snap over it. And at that point, it's held in place. Now to install the actual stock body, this is just a standard plastic collapsible stock. You insert it onto the end of the tube, and then you have to pull the stock, basically the release, so that you can slide it over the end. And that allows you to move the stock to different positions. You can also remove the stock the same way if you were to upgrade, let's say, to something like a Magpul CTR stock. Same way, it slides on. You have to pull this lever to get it past the end of the stock, and once it's on there, it slides on like that. Now, a common question is, do I have a mil-spec or a commercial receiver extension tube? They come in two sizes. They have different external dimensions. But one easy way to tell if it's a commercial or mil-spec is if you actually look at the end of the tube. Generally, this is a commercial tube here. Generally, the commercial tube has a slanted end, whereas the mil-spec is going to have a flat end on the tube. So you can see the differences there. And that's how you install the stock parts.